Did he do it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I know
He did it.
you've been heavy on social media talking about it.
He did it. And I'm the only one who's been vocal about this long before it actually. But I also didn't participate. I also didn't go to those parties.
Yeah.
So a lot of the celebrity culture, if you don't hear saying anything, is because they participated.
Was there a reason you never went to those parties back in the day?
I'm just not with all that freaky shit. Like all of the stuff that he's doing, I'm not into that type of stuff. I'm just a little more, maybe you could say basic or normal.
One is blowing my mind. Justin Bieber and Usher reportedly got into a fight at an Oscars after party. Multiple people told TMZ that this fight turned into a physical fist fight. Then a source that's close to Justin Bieber told TMZ that nothing physical broke out, but Usher walked up to Justin Bieber at this Oscar after party and was very heated and angry. And then things just escalated where they were both yelling at each other. I wish I could have just been a fly on the wall, because sources are also telling TMZ that Justin Bieber just wants to erase everybody from his past. This part really isn't surprising, because in 2025, when Justin Bieber was dealing with all of those things and following Scooter Braun and all of this, he also unfollowed Usher. We all know Usher and Scooter Braun are the ones that signed a very young Justin Bieber. I'm not gonna lie, I can't help but think back when all of this was happening in early 2025, when a lot of us thought that Justin Bieber was very much struggling mentally, and we saw him removing himself from everybody in his past. The only thing that was ever really reported is that Justin Bieber might have had some money that came up missing over a period of time, and he finally realized it. The reason why I found those reports so interesting is the fact that at the same time he was deleting Usher, Scooter Braun, and everybody from his life when he was younger, he also fired his business manager, Lou Taylor of TriStar. Yeah, the Lou Taylor that was managing Britney Spears when she was put into her conservatorship. And yes, TriStar, her business, who was also named in the Diddy trial as allegedly paying some of the male workers. Honestly, this is some tea that I want to figure out what was the reason for this heated argument that almost allegedly turned into a fist.
Something unexpected just unfolded, and people are still trying to make sense of it. During one of Hollywood's most private, high-profile nights, tensions reportedly flared in a way no one saw coming. The situation allegedly involved Justin Bieber and Usher, who were said to have exchanged heated words right in the middle of an exclusive party hosted by Beyoncé and Jay-Z. This wasn't just any gathering. It was Oscar weekend in Los Angeles, one of the most star-packed nights of the year. The venue was filled wall-to-wall with celebrities, including Hailey Bieber, Michael B. Jordan, Timothée Chalamet, Taylor Swift, and many other A-list names.
You guys know that when Justin Bieber signed his first big record deal, that the record label executive, L.A. Reid, described him as a gift from Usher, but hold on, he said much worse. Quote, "This kid was beautiful, like a woman can be beautiful and men rarely are, and he turned it on as soon as he stepped into the room." L.A. Reid recalled how Usher brought Justin Bieber to him in October 2008, saying he had something he wanted to bring him. Around 4 p.m. that day, Usher arrived in the office with an adorable 14-year-old boy, a boy that L.A. Reid was so excited to corrupt.
14-year-old Justin Bieber walks into my office as a gift from Usher. Said, "Hey, I'm coming to your office at 3 o'clock. I have a very special gift for you." That day, we made a deal to sign Justin Bieber.
Keep in mind, L.A. Reid is the one who sent Usher to Diddy's Flava camp, the same camp that Usher said he would never send his children, but willingly sent Justin Bieber. L.A. Reid wrote in his memoir that Justin had a beautiful face, trendy hair, and natural charisma. L.A. Reid himself discovered Usher, and they would often exchange gifts, so I guess like pop stars to each other. Keep in mind that L.A. Reid has been accused of crimes similar to Diddy, SA, and her. He was quoted saying, "I could see immediately that Justin's hair would be every bit as important as his songs, his voice, his face, his presence." These people absolutely objectified Justin Bieber in the worst way possible, and I'm looking forward to their downfall.
After things wrapped up, reports suggest that Justin Bieber didn't linger at the venue. Instead, he and Hailey reportedly left shortly after, with no extended conversations, no press moments, and no visible attempts to stay in the mix. Behind the scenes, sources close to his team stepped in quickly to address the growing speculation. They clarified that there was no physical altercation involved, but they didn't completely shut down the idea that emotions ran high during the encounter. The tension itself, according to those accounts, wasn't something they tried to hide. Attention then shifted to Usher, with reports suggesting he was visibly frustrated during the interaction.
You know, Usher was groomed by Diddy.
He wasn't only groomed by Diddy, he was groomed by L.A. Reid, the rest of them too, man. Because they knew what happened. Then they came out and brought him back, and all of a sudden, he's getting all the great tracks. He's getting all the songs. They making him into this star, even though he may have been a...
They seem to be pretty good friends.
Well, they probably is. A lot of people are stand back and say, well, it happened to me.
Usher has previously reflected on his early years in the entertainment industry, describing that period as overwhelming and far more intense than he could fully process at the time. In later interviews, he suggested that stepping into that world as a teenager exposed him to situations and pressures he didn't completely understand while he was living through them. Looking back, he admitted that the environment moved fast, and the expectations placed on young talent were not always easy to navigate.
Comes out against Usher, it'll show how egregious it is. Because if he can be a predator, then anybody can be a predator.
Can't smile in your face the whole time.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, people look at Usher, they don't see that. They're not seeing the victim. They're not seeing that boy that got rushed to the hospital. They're not seeing what the intentions was in his heart when he took Justin Bieber there.
Oh.
Let's be honest. And had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours. Think about that. He had already been to the hospital. That situation that Gene was talking about. And you still took Bieber there. But you got custody of him first. Diddy had already tried. They wouldn't let him. Actually, someone made reference to the fact that Diddy trying to get at Bieber the way he was trying to get at Bieber was looking a little predatory. And then Usher came in and discovered it and managed him and got custody of him and promised to look after him. And then he sent him to the diddler. Does that sound like a good guy?
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Does that sound like a good guy? Now that we know what Diddy's really like, what kind of do you gotta be to take another boy, another talented boy, and put him in your place so it ain't gotta be you no more? Because that's what do. They get victims, and then once they get to a certain age and they get too old for them to enjoy them, they send them out to go get other young. Now, if Usher is a procurer, and if Usher knew what was gonna happen to any of those young children that he took to the Flavor Freak office.
But now fans are starting to question a bigger picture. If Usher has openly reflected on how intense the industry felt when he was young, people are wondering why Justin Bieber was placed in similar high-pressure circles so early in his own career. Over time, Justin has appeared noticeably more reserved in public, less social, more distant, and often choosing to step away from situations without drawing attention. That change has fueled ongoing discussion about what he may have experienced behind the scenes during his rise in the industry. Adding to the conversation, Jaguar Wright has made public claims regarding the entertainment world and the connections between major industry figures.
What Usher say? I seen some things I shouldn't have been seeing at that age. What does that tell you? That he's seen some things, he was around some things when he was young that he shouldn't have been at a Diddy party. So that's going to show you that there's certain things that are happening that's going on that here it is, this kid was saying he shouldn't even seen it and been around.
The center of it all is Justin Bieber, who was still extremely young when he entered the industry, still figuring out who to trust, and still adapting to a world built on fame, pressure, and constant attention. Over time, people have pointed out how much his personality in public seems to have shifted, more guarded, more selective, and often choosing distance over exposure. Surrounding him were major industry figures, including Usher, who himself has spoken in the past about how overwhelming the music world can be when you're introduced to it at a young age.
Do you know Raymond Usher IV?
No.
Do you know an individual, an entertainer by the name of Usher?
Yeah, Usher. That sounds familiar.
Isn't it true that Usher was instrumental in starting your career?
What does that have to do with this litigation, Mr. DeKalb? This is just you trying to the client.
Before we came back here, you had asked me.
She's going to let her read back the question. Thank you for your memory.
Is it true that Usher was very instrumental in starting your career?
That was the last question. I was found on YouTube. I think that I was detrimental to my own career.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you at all. I'm sitting right next to you. Okay,
I said I think I was instrumental to my own career.
Let me hear back from the court reporter.
Instrumental.
Said I think I was instrumental to my own career.
Thank you, sir. But my question was Usher, was he helpful to your professional career?
Yes.
Is Usher a close friend of yours?
Yes.
Is Usher a confidant?
I guess, yes.
Has Usher given you career advice?
Is this an interview or a deposition? I'm confused.
At that age, most artists don't really question the system around them. They follow it. They trust the people guiding them, especially when everything is moving fast and feels bigger than they are. That's why fans are now going back through the timeline and asking tougher questions, not only about what actually happened, but about who had influence over Justin Bieber during those early years in the industry. Some observers believe this perspective could also connect to why Justin has appeared more selective in recent years about revisiting parts of his past career.
There was a time where I would go to sleep almost every night when he had the money to fly away from me. And I was worried every night that I was going to lose him. And that was the time where I was telling him he's not allowed to work. And he used to yell and scream at me, and like he wanted to put music out, he wanted to tour, but I thought if he did that, he would die.
Right.
So I just refused. Like, we weren't making any money. It wasn't like I was trying to take advantage. Like, I didn't want him to work because I wanted him to get healthy.
So when you say lose him, you thought?
I thought he was going to die. I thought he was going to go to sleep one night and have so much in his system that he would not wake up the next morning. And I was trying to monitor him from a distance. I would fly after him at times, like all kinds of different stuff. And there's a lot of times where people give me credit for him changing, or people on my team. And I don't think any of us deserve the credit. I think that he made a conscious choice.
As the conversation continues online, more names from Justin Bieber's early career are being pulled into the discussion, including former manager Scooter Braun, across social media. People often reference old interviews and resurfaced clips where Scooter Braun spoke about worrying periods during Justin's early rise to fame, describing times that felt extremely intense and emotionally heavy behind the scenes. However, those comments are frequently taken out of context or reinterpreted differently depending on the narrative being shared. Because of that, the story has become heavily debated online.
As a young man, if I don't allow him to make mistakes, he'll never learn. So I think my job is less about stopping him now and more about when he does fall, I got to be there to help him get back up. When it comes to what's happened to him the last 9 months, it took its toll because I had to remind myself what was real and what wasn't. Because I think at one point the media started spinning so much that you can't address everything.
and I had to kind of remind myself of what is reality and what is being blown up out of proportion.
I get a lot of heat because I stand up for Justin. I'm Team Bieber. I've said it a million times on the show. But his fans want to honestly know from someone who knows him very well, is Justin in a good place right now?
He's figuring out who he wants to be. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that every 19-year-old is in that place where they're trying to figure out in life where they're going, where they want to be, what they want to represent, and that's a struggle. The answer is yes, as far as he's a good natural place. Is he in a good place as far as, is he, you know, happy all the time and is everything easy? No, absolutely not. But you know, with that adversity is going to come, you know, it's going to blossom into manhood.
How much of the negative press is deserved, Scooter?
Look, I think 90% of it is not deserved, but it's our culture. I think that there are times where, being a teenager, he will be frustrated with the lies about himself, and then he will actually act out and give them more ammo. Great Wall of China is a perfect example. He spent 2.5 hours walking on the Great Wall of China, visiting stuff.
That's why the situation keeps getting re-examined from every angle involving Justin Bieber and the people who helped shape his early career, including Scooter Braun. In various resurfaced discussions online, people point back to statements attributed to Scooter Braun, where he reflected on the intensity of managing a global superstar at such a young age. In those conversations, he described using very aggressive, hands-on management strategies during certain periods of Justin's rise.
I couldn't believe who he sold it to, because we've had endless conversations about Scooter Braun, and he has 300 million reasons to conveniently forget those conversations.
Now, could you re-record?
Oh, yeah.
Might you do that?
Oh, yeah.
That's a plan.
I thought I was going to work with all the artists on Big Machine. I thought it was going to be like an exciting thing. I knew that Taylor, she and I had only met 3 times, I think in my life, 3 or 4 times. And one of the times, it was years earlier, it was really a great engagement. She invited me to her private party, and we respected each other. We had a great engagement. In between that time, since I'd seen her last, I started managing Kanye West. I managed Justin Bieber. I knew she didn't get along with them. I had a feeling, this is where my arrogance came in. I had a feeling she probably didn't like me because I managed them, but I thought that once this announcement happened, she would talk to me, see who I am, and we would work together. And the announcement came out, and I'm calling Scott Borchetta and saying, hey, send me her number. I just talked to Thomas Rhett, and he's excited. And I just talked to, this person, and they're excited. And I'm calling, Florida Georgia line next. And I'm gonna get you.
In response to those past comments, supporters of Justin Bieber often point out that management decisions in the music industry are rarely simple, especially when major careers are being built at a young age. The focus then shifts again to Scooter Braun, who has faced criticism over the years for how certain business moves and management styles were perceived by artists connected to him. In interviews and public discussions, he has sometimes framed his approach as being in the best interest of the artists he worked with, aiming to guide and protect their careers during high-pressure moments.
Hell of a voice. And she is the sweetest, nicest person. And it's a pleasure to work with her because everything that happens to her is so exciting.
Well, apparently it hasn't always been a pleasure.
Have to focus, know my truth, work hard, be nice to everyone you meet, and just not fight back. I try to create and maintain, but sometimes it's very hard.
Speaking at Fast Company's Innovation Festival this week, Scooter revealed, and in fact, my team wanted me to. They were like, never take her back. But I just said, let's stay quiet and let our truth be our actions. Adding, when boyfriends leave, she starts to see the light. Actually made him a better manager. Quote, I had never been fired before. It made me know that as much as you give to people in a service business, you can never expect anyone to reciprocate. You have to do it for the right reasons. And if you get screwed over in the end, so be it.
I just needed to do, what was right and work hard, and my work will speak.
Scooter Braun pushed back on those kinds of interpretations, framing his actions as standard industry business rather than personal control or intent to harm. In his public statements, he's generally maintained that his focus has always been on building and managing successful careers, even when those decisions became controversial or were viewed differently by the artists involved.
I watched a video of
of an interview of Justin Bieber, and he was talking about Billie Eilish, and he was like, he was broke, almost in tears. He's like, I just want to protect her. I just want to keep her safe.
Yeah.
What do you think he went through?
Because he knows what's been happening to Billy. Just like everybody knew what was happening to Millie Bobby Brown, girl, with Drake.
They're gonna try to get girls that he probably dated, that he had problems and issues with and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna try to do the same thing they probably did to R. Kelly or Puff or whatever like that, and people tell their stories. You understand? But you know, they trying to retaliate on what he did. Let him go ahead, bruh. Cause I think he ready for it. You don't do this, and you don't do the stuff that he did, or sign on to the stuff that he did with Puff, unless you got your. Don't throw no stone if you live in a glass house. Don't throw no stone if you live in a glass house. I believe 50 ready for it, if they come at him any kind of way.
These kinds of conversations often expand quickly once they enter public discourse, especially when multiple artists and old management relationships are involved. In online discussions around Justin Bieber's early career and the broader music industry, people sometimes bring in other former collaborators of Scooter Braun as part of a wider pattern they believe they see. One name that has come up in some discussions is Todrick Hall, who has spoken publicly at different times about difficult experiences in the entertainment world and how certain industry dynamics affected him. When people revisit these stories involving Justin Bieber and the wider circle of industry figures around him, including Scooter Braun, the conversation often becomes less about single moments and more about perception over time. In some discussions online, fans point to interviews and past comments from Scooter Braun and others in the industry where they reflect on making difficult decisions under extreme pressure, especially in situations involving young artists, schedules, and public expectations.